just have to do the best you can with the amount of time you're given, because they are going to go and have their own family, have their own life. And you just hope that they take some of that and just transfer it on, because they're a grown adult and they get to do what they want. And you had maybe 4 years with them before they left your home. And so that's where our expectations have lowered, just knowing we're just going to do the best we can in the small amount of time that we have.
Women need to empower women, and our voice matters.
Bitch.
Welcome to the Mom Bitch Podcast.
Sarah Centers, welcome to the Mom Bitch Podcast. We are so thrilled to have you on.
Thank you. I'm honored. This is my first podcast I've ever been asked to
Really?
talk to. Yeah, totally.
I'm surprised. So for all of those tuning in, my mother-in-law must really graciously sign me up for magazines. And because I'm just always, I always get People magazines and I'm like, who sends this to me? But someone's paying for it. So I assume it's my mother-in-law. I've never asked her, I don't think. But I was going through the magazine and I saw your feature, and I instantly now, being a newer mom, was so connected to your story. So I was wondering if you can tell our audience a little bit about your extraordinary family.
Well, we started, probably 2009, working towards getting our foster care license. We always knew we wanted to be foster parents. And then we ended up getting pregnant with my first daughter. And so our agency actually said, take the year. You will never have one child ever again. It's very special. Enjoy it. And so we did. We took the year. And then on her first birthday, we finished off everything we needed to certify our home. And so as she was 1 year old, we started inviting kids into our house. Some were reunified with parents, which is great. That's what you always want. And then we started getting some babies that needed adoption. And so I had never actually thought about adopting before. And in fact, one of my sons, his mom actually asked us to adopt him. And so it was a really unique situation, but I kind of had to wrap my mind around it, because I feel like when you go into foster care, you think, I'm going to be a temporary parent for however long it's needed, and then they're going to reunite. And it was just coming up that reunification was not in the works. And so we started fostering and adopting and have been doing that for years. And every time we added another kid to our life, we would say, okay, we're done. Our family's done. And then we actually started running group homes because our house felt full. And so we said, well, if our house is full and we've created a good family environment, how can we open up other houses and then give other kids a chance to get our family feel, but, technically with staff. And you always want kids to be in a foster home. Well, you want kids to be with their parents, but you want them to be in a foster home because it's closest to what a family looks like. And so we said, how do we take the teenagers who are not wanted, put 10 of them in a home and let them feel like it still is a family? And so that's kind of been our mission all along, is having our own children, which we didn't expect to end up with 11, having group homes that feel like family, and then eventually starting businesses that allowed some of those kids to work on a trade or have learn life skills without it being necessarily in the home, but actually out in the world in public.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been an experience.
Yeah. And I feel like you and your husband, if I remember correctly, you guys met in an after school program. Is that correct? You guys have both kind of been shaping the experience for how we can nurture and empower children. So can you kind of go back a bit and give us the 411 on how you met the Hubs?
We met in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is northern Arizona for people that don't know. He was my manager, and I actually used to Funny story. I used to drive the bus on campus. Like I used to have my CDL and drive like the 60-foot
Love
buses.
that.
And so I did that for years and years. And then finally I was like, ooh, if I'm going to be a teacher, I guess better go work with kids. So I met Ryan through the Flagstaff after school program. And he was my manager. And I thought, oh, he's so cute. He's so friendly and he loves children. Well, he, was dating someone, I was dating someone. So we just really became friends and started liking the other one, but keeping it respectful because we were dating. And one thing led to another. And I was like, this is the guy. And he saw me. And when his family met me, they were like, oh, this is the girl. Yeah, he loved kids and also liked to party a little, which I was a little into in college because he was not. And so I was like, okay, a good mix, like, all around good guy. So I always knew he wanted to foster kids. And I had never thought about it because I grew up in a very nuclear family of just the brother, the sister, and the two parents. And we were always around a bunch of kids, but I never considered like bringing someone into my home that needed that. But he was about it from day one.
So what motivated you to begin to foster children? I know you touched on it a little bit, but was there like a particular moment where you were like, yes, this is what I want to do with my life?
I think that it's funny because we say sometimes people are really into like fostering dogs or, they go overseas to do missional work, whatever it may be. And I knew, like, especially for our faith is one thing that spurred us on. But the other thing was, I'm like, I've wanted to be a mom my whole life. And when I was in 6th grade, I actually said, I'm going to have 10 kids, which is funny. I ended up with 11, but I had always wanted to parent and I had always loved children. And so I think for him and we were like, let's not, go overseas, but how can we serve children in our home and like provide a mission in our home? Because we're both good at it. And we weren't super great at the beginning. It was really hard going from 1 kid to then 3 because we would take in sibling sets. Then when we started taking 1 kid at a time, we were like, okay, we can do this because it was really, really hard. I'm not going to say it wasn't, but we just knew like, we're not going to be the best parents and nothing about us is perfect. However, we can provide a really good, safe and nurturing home. And so that was our mission. And we just knew that's what we were going to be about. And it's never really shifted. Like we've done we've had careers. He's had multiple careers. We've done different jobs and various things, but it's always been around the idea of foster care or in some way empowering kids or young adults or teens to make, good steps in life. And what we're really finding is even with young adults who are fostered later on, like 15, 16, even if they have a really solid foundation, they still really sometimes hit those statistics, be pregnant too soon or end up in jail or whatever it might be. And so we're like, let's just do our best because the statistics are sad. At least they've had some grounding and sense of what a family could look like.
So if anyone's like thinking about fostering, do you have any tips that somebody wouldn't consider going into it?
One thing I always say is that the kids didn't choose this. They did not choose to be in foster care. For whatever situation, they ended up in a really crappy situation. And it's not on them. And so I always try to tell people to remember that because it's like, they didn't put themselves there. They're not, everyone has these horrible terror stories. And it's like, they're actually just children. They're actually just scared, terrified children. So it might look really scary at the beginning, but they're just kids and they haven't had a safe home. So they don't know if you are safe. And so they always say it's kind of a honeymoon period of about 3 months. And I would say it's 6 months to a year that you really start adjusting. And that's when you can like take a breath and be like, oh, we did this. We survived this, this, and this. So I think if you take it a day at a time, a week at a time, and really don't have huge high expectations for yourself or the kids. That's one thing my husband and I have done is we've like actually lowered our standards in a lot of situations because we're like, which sounds bad, but it's like, you're not, I mean, maybe we're raising the next president, but we're probably not. And so, how can we like just be excited if they make good choices at school? How can we just be excited if they're kind to a sibling? How can we just foster like small wins? And that for us has made a big difference. The small wins, the taking it slowly, and knowing that like there's a big, big picture to it all.
I think that those are great tips for parents in general.
Yeah.
Just kind of celebrating the small wins because we often overlook the little things. And
where there's so much pressure on kids.
Yeah. And I think for moms too, we already have so much stuff thrown at us at how to be a good parent. And so the shame and the guilt can really get to you. And then when it's not your birth child, but someone else's child, it feels like a heavier responsibility. Yeah. And you're just like, no, give yourself grace. Grace.
That's great. That's a great tip.
You had a child before you started to foster. And I noticed that sometimes in foster situations, certain kids they'll say will do better without a sibling.
Yes.
And I've always wondered why and if that's true and if anyone's ever gone against the grain.
I think one of the things that we learned the hard way was if you do have a child of your own, try to foster kids who are younger than that child because there is a natural birth order. And when you have that firstborn, they are going to act like a firstborn. But when you bring in kids that are older than them, it's a lot harder.
Confusing.
Yeah. That's good advice.
That is.
And I would say we learned that the hard way. And once our third placement ended up being my son, Gavin, and he was younger than my daughter, only by like 8 months. And it's funny because everyone's like, they're twins, 8 months. I'm like, no, they're not. But they're brothers and sisters. But it was a game changer to bring in a child younger than my own. But then when your kids are at an age where you can really talk to them about what you're doing, we have friends that have 4 kids actually. So they had all of their kids and then they started fostering. But they got their kids in on it with them. Like, hey, this is our mission. How can we help these kids, even if it's temporary? And they've already had like a placement of a sibling set come and go back home. And they cried and cried and cried. And it was just sad for the kids, but they were old enough and able to talk through it and through those emotions. And then they got a new placement, a new sister and sister. And now it's like, okay, on to the next. And so it really depends on your family dynamic.
Yeah.
And ages for sure. And there have been times where when we took in my older son, we met him at our group home actually. When we took him in, I did put cameras in my house in some of the main areas because I had a daughter. And I don't think you can be naive or stupid anymore to know that bad stuff can happen. And that's terrifying, but we were just trusting God and knew that if we put some things in place, we could at least have some barriers and boundaries and ways to know, that our daughter was going to be safe or our boys were going to be safe.
Yeah.
And they were. And so then the funniest thing is that eventually I disconnected all the cameras because I'm like, no, we're good. Your brother's fine.
Yeah.
But I would still tell the kids that I can watch them from the loft. And I was like,
don't we all?
Yeah. And they're like, Mom, check the cameras. And I'm like, oh, I'm checking the cameras. So it worked out.
Yeah. That kind of like goes towards my second question is because, in the States, I think especially when you go to adopt and you think, oh, I'm just going to go adopt a baby. Like that's really not the case. A lot of times you have to foster first. And as a foster parent, your goal is to get them back to their family.
Yes.
And in some cases you are able to adopt. Do you have any advice for people when it comes to that emotional roller coaster of loving a child and then saying goodbye.
And I think that's where you have to decide, because you can, and I know all states are different law wise, but you can straight up adopt a child in Arizona. I want to say it's maybe $20,000 plus to get on the wait list and wait for a baby, get matched, whatever it
Wow.
may be. I don't fully know the process, but I loved fostering because you adopt for free. It doesn't mean you're getting an infant. Maybe I got my one son at 8 months old. I got my other son at 2 days old. But then you don't adopt them till you go through everything.
Everything.
Are they going to reunify? Do they have a parent in prison? And then when that parent gets out, then they do drug tests. Like, it is such a roller coaster.
Yeah.
But I think you have to decide, am I going in it to adopt or am I going in it to foster? And if you're going in it to foster and adoption comes up, great. Like, how cool is that I've spent time with this child and now they're forever mine, but also they could go home. And that is best case scenario, especially if they have healthy family members. I have cried more over fostering and adoption than anything in my life. But at the end, my husband and I always say it's worth it. So you just have to decide, am I going to foster? Do I want to help reunify? Is their best interest being with their birth parents? Sometimes it is. It's not always. And so we've had kids from our group homes go to live with grandparents out of state or go to live with teachers. Teachers are a great attachment. They consider it like kinship. So yeah, there are situations where it's like you have a relationship with this person, and that's going to be better for you down the road. And that's okay for sure, but it's hard.
Yeah. In 2016, you founded Ohana. What made you want to create your own agency? And tell us a little bit more about the agency and like how people can work with you. Is it just in Arizona? Like all of the details surrounding that, because that's a really like awesome feat.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was brutal at the beginning, but we knew, again, the mission. So that's when we said, we had 5 kids at the time. My daughter, Pima, and my son, Drew, had been adopted in 2015. So our family had 5, 1 teenager and 4 littles. And we said, okay, let's make a house for boys that we can foster a family for them, an extended family, but, technically be able to go home at night to our kids. And so I was the first manager. My husband did all the business side and I did like running the program. And we just learned, like we just grinded and we learned. We had no idea what we were doing or what kind of the group home world looked like, because they have a ton more rules than foster care families do. And so we had to do a lot of licensing knowledge and different things, but we paid someone to mentor us. And it was really, really long days. But the more you got to know the boys, the more you were like in love with them. And we just started merging our family with that. And so we would host for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And for probably maybe 5 to 6 years in a row, we adjusted all of our holidays based off of, we have homes with kids in those homes that don't have families to go to. And so we adjusted holidays based off of, let's celebrate with them. And we can celebrate anytime we want to. Everything is adjustable. But yeah, we started with just kids in foster care system. But then we found that there were a lot of kids that qualified that had different disabilities. And so it wasn't appropriate for an autistic teenage boy that was maybe 12 to be in a home with a 17 or 18-year-old that was abused and then is abusive. And so we started realizing we needed to look into that realm. And so we actually partnered with the Department of Developmental Disabilities in Arizona and started opening those group homes up. So we've basically started with foster care, but then expanded to teens and kids and adults with special needs. because that was such an area that also needed attention. And it's a really sweet thing to see then those homes and those kids and even adults all interact with each other. And when we have holidays and celebrations and get-togethers, it's like we have moms with babies, teen moms with babies, all the way up to a 64-year-old man, and who's, has some special needs. And the way everyone just talks and interacts with each other, it is just like one big dysfunctional family that everyone else has, we've just added to it as the years have gone on.
And that's what Ohana means, right? Family.
Means family. Yeah. And actually we named Ohana after my son, Drew. It took about 2.5 years to adopt him, but he was a terror, and we called him Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. And he was like built to destroy and always running around and just a monster. And we're like, okay, 626, you're Stitch. And so we called him Stitch for years because we couldn't really share his name. And that's how we got Ohana.
Oh, love that.
I wish I could say we were Hawaiian, but we're far from.
Well, I mean, like on the trend of Hawaii, right? In 2022, you just opened up Hanai, a coffee shop, and that's aimed to help kids, again, out of the foster care system. Can you tell us a little bit about that business?
With our social service agency, there are so many barriers and things that kids would need to get to work, including like a fingerprint clearance card, which is not always possible for someone who's been in the system. And so we needed to provide jobs for them where there were staff that were trauma informed, that they would give grace to a kid who maybe was just having a hard day or just had a visit with mom and it was crummy. But they wouldn't be fired for situations that normally teenagers would be fired for.
Love it.
And so that's what we thought. It was a community space, because our community in Levine didn't have any coffee shops that were like family friendly and like you can sit in different areas. And then 2, it was, how can we get some of our teens and adults to work in here? One of our kids actually with special needs will like wear a cape while he's like doing the coffee and stuff. And it's like, he's comfortable in a cape, so he's going to wear a cape. And that might not be okay, at another facility or workplace, but at ours it is, because we give grace, we're accepting. We just know we're training them, we're giving them life skills. And that face-to-face interaction with strangers is so important. And you wouldn't think it is, but now, especially with technology, they're all,
oh my goodness.
Like everyone around the world is just in their tablets and in their phones. But these guys are learning skills of talking to people you don't know. And I think that's really needed right now for sure.
You're incredible. I love the integration of real life opportunities, but man, oh man, the integration of family. So Pima, like I read a little bit about her. So she went through, she's one of your children.
Yes.
Went through 6 foster homes.
Yes.
Came to you guys, fell in love with your children before you. And has settled into a family. Like, what is that like, right? To like be the reason someone has stability and family and like also hearing their experience, right? Like, it's got to be amazing.
She's probably our biggest inspiration of continuing the work, because she was still, a bratty teenager at times, and there were, potential runaways or screaming fits, or, Ryan's had to take doors down before, real fun parenting stuff. But it's a journey. And that's what we've noticed with Pima was, she didn't want to be adopted. And then a year later, she asked us to adopt her. She didn't want to take our last name because she felt like she was betraying her family.
Sure.
But then years later, she wanted our name because she recognized that we were her parents. And so it's been this journey of her maturing and becoming an adult and being like, oh, this is what
it's like.
And I think that having a relationship with her family, we've allowed her to say like, hey, it's your choice, and it's on your time. And it's sure taken a lot of time, but everything now, like when she got married and her son that she has, like everything now that she does, she always is like, I'm so glad I had you guys to do this, this, and this. And seeing her be a mom and a wife and having it reflect our household and like things that she saw and learned in our household just gives you so much pride as a parent. And it was really messy and there were hard times, and it's definitely not easy adopting a, 15-year-old girl. But over time, when she first moved in, from her 6th foster placement, she would ask to go in our pantry. She would ask to go in the fridge to get out a drink. She would ask for, certain things. And we're like, this is your home now. You get to eat, you get to drink, you don't have to ask permission. And it just took years of breaking down some of those picked up habits that she had of being in foster care for so long. That was just amazing to see her flourish. And I think once she really felt safe, it allowed her to like be her true self. And then as time has gone on, there's things she's learned the hard way. And she's still like, oh man, her car recently broke. And we're like, Pima, you got to be driving a decent car with our grandson. And she took it into the shop and I went and picked her up and we did the whole thing. And then the guy's like, when's the last time you had an oil change? She's like, oh, last August. We're like, Pima, you have to get an oil change every 3 months. But it's like that kind of stuff. If you don't have parents around, you don't know.
Easily, you wouldn't know.
Easily. And so it's like, oh, goodness gracious. So she's still learning things. She's 26 and she's still learning things. And it's so fun to watch because it's like, okay, it's the good side of it for sure.
Yeah. How rewarding is that?
Yeah.
It probably also gives anyone listening that's thinking about fostering a little light at the end of the tunnel that like it's their individual life too.
Yes.
And so they have to find a place, whatever that time may be, to be open-minded and that not everything's static, right? Like she said, like she didn't want to be adopted and then she came around to it and she realized like, this is a piece of family and family doesn't just have to be blood, right? Like that's awesome because we're so fluid. And I feel like so many times like we get stuck in our ways and then we're like freaking out because, oh my goodness, this is never going to happen or this isn't going to happen to me. And then it's like, no, like things change.
Yeah.
And people grow. I love that.
That's the other thing that my husband and I have told ourselves and would tell other families is that if you do go to foster an older child or adopt an older child, you have to know I've got this much time. So with your birth kids, you're like, okay, I've got, the 18 years, maybe more, whatever it may be. But for Pima, it was like, when you think about it, we've only had her for 10 years and of 10 years of her life. And so it's like, you just have to do the best you can with the amount of time you're given because they are going to go and have their own family, have their own life. And you just hope that they take some of that and just transfer it on because they're a grown adult and they get to do what they want. And you had maybe 4 years with them before they left your home. And so that's where our expectations have lowered, just knowing we're just going to do the best we can in the small amount of time that we have.
What advice would you give to anyone that's thinking about fostering?
My advice, I would say for fostering is go into it knowing I'm going to be a surrogate mom or maybe you're an auntie. Like some people like to give themselves names because maybe they have mom and mom has a chance of getting them back. And so I would be Mama Sarah. I'm not mom, I'm Mama Sarah or Auntie Ashley or, whatever it may be. Give yourself a name and just love them well. And like, assume that they're going to go back with their parents, but just be the best mom you can for whatever time you're given with those children. And I think you always have to look at it in a temporary mindset because it helps protect your heart a little. And Like for so long, I always told my husband, I'm like, oh, my heart has hardened over all these years, and it has. And that's okay because, you protect yourself a little bit too, but you have to have a full heart when you are fostering. And so even though you might feel like, okay, I'm a little barriered up, don't ever let the kids know that. Let them just feel what it's like to have a loving mom and dad without any, contingencies.
I know you've been fostering for a long time now. I'm sure you've encountered some negative stereotypes. How can we as a society move forward, do better?
The stereotypes that people give. I know when I was when I was first fostering years ago, I got on the food stamps. And at the time, like now they're cards, so it looks a little bit different. But at the time, food stamps were literally like checks that you had to rip out of a book. And, you could get so many things. And I had a lot of eye rolls and a lot of, because they think like, oh, they're just using the government money or whatever it is. I had a lot of negativity around grocery shopping. And every time I went grocery shopping, I was afraid to have people behind me in line because of that. And as a mom who has 3 young kids in the cart, it doesn't matter. People just treated you differently.
Nasty.
And that was really hard because even though technically I could buy milk, I could buy cans, I could buy the fresh fruit, it helped so much. They eat so much.
100%.
And it was like, oh, this is amazing. And so I think that's one of the ways that I've learned to look at like the welfare systems differently and the EBT checks or whatever it may be. I just think those are really a blessing to families who absolutely need them. And you don't know someone's situation. And the other thing I would think is we're like mixed in my family. I have Hispanic kids. I have a Black daughter. I have really white pasty ones. We're like this whole mix. And a lot of people will assume that you're not mom. And sometimes they do a good job of saying, and what, and who's with you? Like if we're at the doctor or whatever it may be. And they'll say, well, this is mom. And especially my older daughter, we've gotten that a lot. And she's like, this is my mom. And so it's like, just don't assume whatever it may be. And I know we even actually had a lady one time that was upset with us for having a Black daughter because we could not give her like that cultural background. And we're like, yeah, we know we can't. And so we're going to learn as much as we can or put her in those situations where she's learning from from her own culture. But no one stepped up to do this. We're doing it.
Thank you.
I don't care that we're white parents. We're parents. Those are some of the things that we've encountered, different police situations, and it's out there, and it really opens your eyes. And my daughter always says she's really appreciated having a white family and a Black family because she knows both. And even her husband, like she'll ask cops, well, why did you pull me over? And she'll have conversations with police officers, and he's terrified. And she's like, no, I know this is my right. She's like, this is what I know. And so I think it's been really helpful to see some of that, but the looks you get from other people, they either assume you are Mormon if you have a lot of kids, or they assume you're weird, or they assume you're doing it for the money. And it's like, man, if I was doing this for the money, I would have 20 kids. And lots of people would be fostering and adopting because it was financially helpful. It's not. It's
no.
You are raising kids and you're surviving.
You're responsible.
Like some days you're just surviving. Like we're like, with our chore charts and all are crazy. And it's like, no, it's actually really, really hard. So,
fuck assumption.
Yeah, right.
Seriously. Yeah.
That's great. Goodness. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, thank you so much for coming on the pod. So the last question we have is like, what's next for the Centers family? Like what is next for Ohana, Hanai? What should we expect coming from you?
Well, I don't know when this will come out. But I am currently at a ranch and actually 4 of my sons are building a chicken coop right now with my husband and a buddy. We basically bought property so that we can bring our kids and adults with special needs up to a ranch and have like day camps of horse therapy.
Oh my gosh.
Learning things about horses, being able to ride them. We're building a lake that they can fish in and canoe. And so yeah, there's camps that you can pay for to attend, and they're super outrageous financially. And so we're like, how do we create our own Ohana ranch and just have a space that they can get out of town, cooler weather, see the animals, visit them, learn some of those life skills.
Yeah.
And just experience that. So that's next. The Ohana Ranch is next.
Exciting.
It's probably going to be years and years of work.
Right.
But that's okay. It's our mission and we're in it. So
amazing.
I guess I have one more last question. Outside of all of this that you do, like, what do you like secretly when no one's watching and you got like 20 minutes to yourself? Like, what are you watching on TV? Like, what are you doing? Like, what's your vice?
I'm a huge, and I know it's different for everyone, but I am a huge Kardashians fan. Like,
me too.
You two belong together.
I'm like all in. So I'll have a glass of wine and I will watch the Kardashians.
Oh my gosh.
And that's like my favorite thing. And even like reading like murder books are like really just, my husband's like, why? Like, I'm like, I could be, doing the books where you're learning about the emotions of children.
You need a break.
I'm learning it.
No, you need to like have fun.
You need a mental break.
Yeah. Kardashians and a glass of red wine is
That's the best. I love it. I see it. Cami is like,
yeah.
And I'm like, yes, I get it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod. We're going to have all of your information linked out. You truly are
inspirational.
An angel put on this earth. And it's just been so incredible to get to know you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I also say too, check out in whatever state you're listening in, check out what the foster care system looks like.
Yes. Thank you.
Because, we're Ohana in Arizona, but there are foster kids all throughout the U.S. And I think it's a huge need, especially in some of the bigger states. So yeah, I would say Google foster care in your state and learn more about it, because I think the more people are aware, the more they can get involved. And it doesn't mean you need kids in your home, but there are a lot of things that you could do to help kids that are in the system for sure.
I love that.
Great tip.
Thank you. If you are loving the Mom Betch podcast, we really want your help to like, subscribe, and rate wherever you listen to your podcast so that we can get more Mom Betches to find us. But I have to give a shout out here for a second. Did you notice the quality of this podcast audio? That's because we have a podcast editor. Miraculously enhance your audio, get custom edits based on your preference, and let your podcast editor make the episode sound so much better with her audio content optimization. If you have a podcast or want one, talk to Taya, our podcast editor. She can help you strategize, edit, make social content, and keep you on track to make sure you have the very best show. AI can only do so much, so treat yourself and set up a free meeting with Taya to see how she can help you with your podcast. Go to tayachura.com/podcast. That's TEACHURA.com/podcast.
Women need to empower women, and our voice matters.